Want to learn about writing historical picture books? Then this is the show for you. Hi, my name is Tonya Duncan Ellis, author of the Sophie Washington series and host of Write This, an author interview show. And today I am thrilled to welcome Alice Faye Duncan, a celebrated historical fiction picture book writer, to come on and to talk about her newest works and her process and author journey. This is going to be an exciting show that I'm sure that we're all going to love. I've watched Alice doing a presentation with the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators summer conference, and it was phenomenal. It was so good that I had to tune in twice and rewatch it in replay because she shares many gems and a lot of great information that I personally found helpful, and I'm sure will help other authors along their journey learning about craft and book marketing. So I can't wait to have her come join us in just a minute. And I want to thank all of you guys who are coming in. If you have questions for Alice, please post them in the comments and I will pose them to her so that we can get her responses. As we're looking for, I'm going to give her a invitation, invite her on so that we can get started. This is something I've been looking forward. And while you're there, again, think about any questions you might have about writing picture books, writing historicals, doing book marketing, because she has a treasure trove of information to share. So can't wait to get her on here if she joins us. But she's not there. And while I'm waiting, anybody have any questions? Anybody have any books you want to plug or want me to mention here on the show? I know we've got some who are authors, so if you've got books that you want to talk about, put them in the comments and I'll mention them. I am excited because I have a new picture book coming out. It's my debut picture book called They Built Me for Freedom, and things are progressing a lot with it. It is now live on Amazon and online retailers, and it is scheduled for release in May of this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Now this is saying that Alice can't come on, so let's see what is happening. This always happens on these lives. There's never a dull moment. So let me see if I can get her on. I've sent her an invitation. Okay, she joined. You're here. I sent you an invitation. Yes. Yay.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me turn this around. Like, how do I turn this around?
So on your screen, there should be
I see it. I see it. There you go. Yeah. All right. There we are.
I'm so glad to see you, Alice. Thank you for joining.
You, Tonya. Thanks so much for inviting me to speak with you today.
You know, my maiden name is Duncan, so maybe...
I know. So I was going to ask you, are your people from Arkansas? Because my dad's people, my maiden name is Duncan also, and my dad's folks are from Arkansas.
Okay, well, my family's from Kentucky, from Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, it's possible it's the same tribe, child.
It could be. It could be.
It is possible it's the same tribe. So look, I appreciate you inviting me. And today we are, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the process for writing picture books, historical picture books, because I know a lot of your books are historical. And just want to hear you share your journey because you are just captivating to me. Because
thank you so very much. And you know, I love talking about writing. I mean, it's one of my favorite things to do, which is to write, and then one of my favorite things to speak about. So where are you on your journey? Like, what are you writing? You're writing novels, right?
Well,
middle grade.
I have a 13-book chapter series, the Sophie Washington series. There's some of my books are behind my head. But I actually, Alice, have a picture book coming out with HarperCollins in May, and it's about Emancipation Park, the site of the first Juneteenth celebration. Because I live here in Houston. I live in Houston, Texas. So park, I passed it all the time. And before the Juneteenth holiday became a national holiday, I wrote about a story about it. And then, so it was picked up by HarperCollins. So I'm so excited. So maybe we can coordinate on marketing or different things with your book once it comes out.
We can. Let's do that. Because my book with HarperCollins is the Opal Lee book.
Oh,
And so if you're writing now picture books that are historical, like historical fiction, and I'm writing picture books that are historical fiction, and I'm doing biographies as well. And so if there are writers online, please post your questions if you have some questions, because then that'll give us some things to talk about as well. But I want to make a suggestion as to what Tonya just did, because that's also what I do. She was in her city, she looked around her city, and she saw something related to Black history that she thought needed to be amplified.
yes.
And that's what I do. I live in the city of Memphis. If you see here behind me, I have a book on Dr. King, the assassination of King. I live in Memphis. He was assassinated here at the Lorraine Motel. I felt that that was a topic that needed to be amplified, because children know about King in Selma, children know about King in Washington, children know about King in Montgomery, but children do not know about King in Memphis. And so, like Tonya was saying, you know, the Emancipation Park was something that came after Juneteenth. So few people know that that was a park. It was purchased, land was purchased by a Black man, right?
Right. Jack Yates. Yes. Here.
Right. And he saw the need to like have a place where Black people could go. And so don't nobody know about that, but you live in the city. And so it's like, it is your responsibility to write that history and amplify it. And so if there are writers who are listening, I want them to know that whatever city they live in, look around and see some of those historical landmarks there. Look around and see some of the historical figures that were born there, that made their name there, but they have not been amplified like they should. That is your responsibility. That is what God has just organically given you to write about, right? And so on that note, I want to talk about, just briefly, we're going to talk about Opal Lee, more about Emancipation Park, and then I want to talk about, but right now, I want to talk about Coretta Scott King.
Yes.
Coretta Scott King, I live in Memphis. Coretta Scott King came to Memphis and she preached her first sermon and made her first national prophecy in Memphis on the steps of City Hall. So few people never see Coretta, because all they know is that iconic image of her being on Ebony, the iconic image of her being on the cover of Life magazine. And that's the Black widow in the veil of mourning, right? But so few people know the woman behind the veil. And so my new book, Coretta's Journey, it's talking about Coretta Scott King, who in Alabama was a very petulant and a pugilistic little girl who used her fist to settle arguments when she was a child. But she transforms, she transcends, she changes, and she finds that nonviolence is not only a strategy for winning liberation movements, but nonviolence is a way to live in community of peace and unity with others. And so I pray that if there are folks listening and they write historical fiction or they write biographies, I pray that they will look into that book, Coretta's Journey. It's available wherever books are sold. And then the companion is Memphis Martin the Mountaintop. Now, enough of that. Now, anybody got any questions? Like, Tonya, what do you want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Juneteenth? When is your Juneteenth book going to be available?
It'll be available. It says May, so I'm not sure the exact date. And then my cover reveal should be out in a couple of weeks. We're still not quite ready.
Okay.
So I'm forward to reveal.
And who is the illustrator for that book?
Janine Muhammad is my illustrator. So she has. There's a book called Naming Ceremony that she illustrated, and
that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, that just came out. It's gorgeous. So she
has
a lot of beautiful books out. So I'm so excited. I've seen one of the color images. I've seen the sketches, and I'm just so thrilled with, you know, all of her beautiful work and interpretation of my words. So I can't wait for it to come out and reveal it to the world.
Well, I can't wait to see it as well. And I look forward to it. So what else do we want to talk about?
But one,
I want to talk, oh, go ahead.
well, when watching you doing your interview with, or not your talk with SCBWI, I also loved how you include your faith in your works when you had your book This Train. It just felt
Yes.
church because you just include so much of yourself and your heart in your works. So, and I feel like that's important part of the writing process for being successful.
It is, it really is. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen, right? And so a lot of times when you are writing not seeing or understanding if there's really going to be an editor at the end of that process who wants to publish your work. I've been writing since I was 24. My first book deal was with Macmillan. I was 24 years old. I'm now like a couple of years shy of 60. So I've been writing for going like now maybe 31 years or so. I've been writing for as long as the time it took for me to teach school, and I taught school for 30 years. So um faith is how I'm here. Faith is how I have survived moving from fledgling, because it was a fledgling time for the like 25 years, and then these last 5 years, it has been a time of grace. It has been a time of abundance. What I can say, like, what is the difference between me 25 years across those 25 years and now? It is me surrendering to the process of editing and revising and doing draft after draft after draft after draft. Where when I was 24 years old, I was not having nobody talking about, Alice, let's revise this, let's edit this. I was like, look, I'm 24 years old. I just sold 2 books, honey. Like, everything I write is gold. Like, you just don't understand. You just don't understand the culture of Black folks and the Black vernacular and the civil rights and the blah, 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 blah. And it was like, no, honey, I didn't understand. I did not understand that your best writing is going to happen when you go back and rewrite again. That there is always a better way to say something. That there is always a greater metaphor. And so you just keep on going and going until you come to that. Now, somebody said something about some. Oh, did you get those questions over there? Hold on.
One
All
thing,
right. So
how you do research. So how do you go about researching?
okay. So you know what? When I do research, so that it is organic and it is alive, so that the story is fused with living energy, I always go and try to interview someone who is still living and knew that person, or someone who knew the person that knew the person. So, for example, with Coretta's Journey, in 2018 in Memphis, they had the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And all of his children had converged on the city to do symposiums and to do speeches at the memorial events and things. And so I heard Dr. Bernice King speaking, and she was talking about her mother. And she's like, every time you mention my mother, no, she said, she told the people in the audience, every time you mention my father, do not fail to mention my mother, because the legacy that we have of my father is because of my mother's hard work. And then, so I knew some journalists in the city, and I was like, I just went about trying to contact anybody who I thought knew Dr. Bernice King, and I finally made a connection, and I was able to interview her, because at that time, people all over the nation and the world were interviewing her, and I was able to get one of the calls where, you call her and you get 5 minutes to talk and ask your questions, and then they move on to the next person. And so I had 5 minutes to like interview her. And that is, that I think just having that communication, it enlivened me, it quickened me, and then it just sort of like feeds the energy or the creativity. as you're writing. So I always try to contact somebody that was living. With Memphis Martin and the Mountaintop, I contacted a former church member of mine. She was a teenager, and her mom and dad were like on the front lines with the sanitation workers, and they would take her to all of the sanitation the strategist meetings. They would take her. In fact, she was there on the night that Dr. King made his last speech at Mason Temple. And she is, it was my idea after speaking with her to change my main character from it, because I had my main character for a children's book being an elderly gentleman. And it was like, no, it needs to be a child. And so I made it a little girl. So when you're writing nonfiction or historical fiction, try to get in contact with someone, interview someone, speak with them who knew that person or was a part of the movement that you're talking about.
Now, here's a question I have, Alice. I've heard recently they're kind of moving away from historicals or with the picture book. Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, girl, they probably are. And it's because now several things happen, because I taught school 30 years. So I know the trajectory of this. So several things happen in education, right? You had Common Core. Common Core came, what was it? The mid 2000s, 2003, 2004. Common Core came, and that's when they wanted all the children to read informational texts. So there was this big drive in publishing to do picture books that were about informational texts. And then after that, they were like, oh, all the folks that are all the same folks who are leading this rise in book banning are the same folks that said Common Core is indoctrinating the children. Okay, how is studying, migration or the Great Migration, how is that indoctrinating children? But anyway, so they were like, Common Core started dying, right? And then you get this rise of people saying, oh, we need multicultural books. And then the 2020, George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd, that one little window of time, people were like, yes, Black books, Black Lives Matter. And so you get this explosion of editors looking for those books, wanting those books. And then it's sort of like after Reconstruction, what happened? You let the Black men vote, you get the Negroes a school, and now everybody is wanting to target that so that Black people cannot advance, so that, and so no, we're going go from Reconstruction to what? Jim Crow.
Right.
And now it's more it's more debilitating for the Black people to survive, right after Reconstruction. So you just got 12 years, right? And so with George Floyd and the movement to do Black books, and editors now looking for Black books, and agents looking to represent Black writers, you had that summer, those 3 months, 4 months, but by the time school started, the rise in the book ban was blooming. It was flourishing, right? And now it's flourishing even more, right? And so now editors are saying we can publish all these Black books. They're publishing books about Asians, and they're publishing books about the indigenous people, Native Americans, and all of these books on different religions. And you got a lot of books now about the Muslim religions, and children, praying as they do in the Muslim religion, and all. It's an explosion, right? But now you got those book banners. As the explosion goes with getting children, all of the voices and books that need to be there, as that rises, then the banners are also rising too. And that's okay, so publishing is about making money. Okay. It's about making money. So now if you're going to be messing with the publisher and the publisher's money, this is my opinion. My opinion is, now it's they'll just go back to dystopias and now go, more vampires, and now more Afrofuturism, because Afrofuturism is more acceptable, I guess, to the book banners than Coretta, and not her imagined life, but her real life facing racial terror, her real life having a transcendence of understanding, going from pugilist to peace. You know what I mean? So it's, that's my opinion. And oh, but you said, so what do I think about it? What I think about it is I still got Coretta Scott King books to write. I still have to write about one of my upcoming books, Robert Johnson, who is father of the Delta blues and father of rock and roll. And so I'm still, regardless of how, how loud the book banners scream and shout, I've got to like write harder. I've got to stay the course, be steadfast, unmovable, right? Into doing what I am called to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, talk about faith, I feel like if I stick to my purpose and my high calling, then I feel like the good Lord is going to bless me to succeed. He will make the enemy my footstool, right? And he's going to make the book or the books succeed according to his plan, because it ain't my plan, no way. It's like he gave me inspiration and put it in my heart to create these things. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing God's will, and trying to be like my illustrator, not my illustrator, but the illustrator of Coretta Scott King is R. Gregory Christie, who lives in Atlanta. And to know R. Gregory Christie is to like, he doesn't allow anything in public, like however the wave of the wind blows in publishing, he remains very resolute. He remains very steadfast. I'm like, Colin, Greg, He's like, Alice, it's going to be what it's going to be. I am simply going to be here working. And so for those who write, I say, write what the Spirit is giving you to write. And no matter what's happening out there somewhere, always be writing, always be working. Because the haters are gonna hate.
That's right. That's right. And then you can't let that change your process or change the story that you were telling. Because I found sometimes when I'm thinking of writing something, like, oh, this may be banned. Oh no. But I said, I've got to be true to myself and true to my art and just write what's in my heart.
Right. Because like, where does the idea come from anyway? Like, have you insinuated, like, did you insinuate the idea to write about the Emancipation Park? No, it was, I would say it was spirit, right? Old folks would say it was the Holy Ghost, but I would say it was spirit. It was the spirit in you moving you to do what is required, right? Of you, not of the person next door, not of your spouse, not of your children, but what's required of you. This is what you have to do, right? And you're sticking and staying the course. And that's what we have to do, because they're going to get louder. Like, the more successful we are, teachers are, librarians are, and writers are, the more successful we are in getting books about diversity and multiculturalism and about all of the variety of things where children can see themselves, no matter who they are. The more successful we are in that, then the status quo, those folks who want to just keep it with everybody, being under the thumb of oppression, those voices are going to get louder. And so you think, like, imagine what would have happened if Coretta Scott King, let's talk about this, patriarchy, right? Coretta Scott King was I call her a black Barbie. She was a black Barbie living in a patriarchy, right? But all of the men who were marching with Martin, the week after he died, she told the men, the Abernathys, the Youngs, the Jesse Jacksons, all of those Negroes. She said, I want to create an institute in Martin's honor where it'll be a repository of the things of his speeches, a repository of artifacts that belong to him. I want to create something called the King Center in Atlanta in his honor. And a lot of those men who walked with Martin were like, oh, Coretta, you just stay pretty, go and sing and sit down. And a week after, the congressman in Detroit. She went to him a week after Martin had died and said, "Hey, I want to do a holiday." And he was one of the few men that said, "I'm with you." And he initiated trying to do a holiday, and it never happened, and it never happened for several, 2 decades or so. And then finally, the holiday happened because she would not listen to the patriarchy. She made coalitions with other people who agreed with her, and she kept on, kept on until her dream was realized. And that is the Dr. King holiday.
Right. And there's no struggle, no progress. So
My father would say, "No cross, no crown."
right. That's right. Well, this was just amazing, Alice. I myself have been personally inspired and convicted to continue on with some of the projects that I'm working on myself. Now, can you tell us about where people can find you and your upcoming projects? I know you've got Coretta's Journey. Are there any other projects that you want us to be on the lookout for?
Yes, yes. So I have Coretta's Journey. It released on yesterday. But I also, is anybody familiar with Wilma Rudolph? I have a new book. It ain't about Wilma. No, 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 no. But it is about that other Tiger Belle. Wilma Rudolph was a Tennessee State University Tiger Belle. She went to a HBCU and she won her first Olympic medal when she was 16. But here's the thing. Nobody knows that there was another girl on her track team who was a TSU Tiger Belle. Her name was Willie B. White. She was a cotton picker from the Mississippi Delta. I live in Memphis. Memphis is the front door of the Mississippi Delta. She was a cotton picker from the Mississippi Delta. And the name of that book is Traveling Shoes. It is a book of poems that is rendered as a biography. So it's like 13, 14 poems rendered as a biography, and it is about Willie B. White. Also, I just wrote an article called Black Barbies and the Patriarchy. You can find that on the Nerdy Book Club website. And it's talking about how Coretta and Willie had to navigate a world of men in order to actualize their dreams. And it's really very interesting. I enjoyed writing that article, and I pray that if you all dare to read it, that you will enjoy it too, and that you will share it with others. One more thing. I was in the Hill online newspaper last week, where I wrote a book. Not wrote a book, girl, no. I wrote an opinion ed about the rise of the book banning in America and how these folks are creating an illiterate electorate. And so check that out, The Hill. Alice Faye Duncan.
The Hill?
Huh?
Is that what
it's The Hill. It's the online. Oh, yeah. It's the online newspaper called The Hill. And then if they want to know more about my books and everything, they can go to www.alicefayeduncan. And that's my website where you'll find a whole assortment of stuff that I'm doing. And I just thank you, Tonya Duncan Ellis, my sister from another mother. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and your followers. And let's do something again when it's time for Juneteenth of 2024. Let's do something again. And then HarperCollins is also they published Opalee. What is this?
Right.
They published Opalee. And so then maybe they can do something where they could market it as well, and we could do an IG Live or Facebook Live or something. I would love to do that.
Thank you. I'm so happy to connect with you. I read your article about the patriarchy, so now I'm going to read the one on The Hill.
Yes, about book banning. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hey. A mind is a terrible thing to lose. So make sure you're sharing books with your young people.
That's right.
God bless y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.